Mike Johnson was here. He stood yesterday in Ariel, and he declared that Judea and Samaria are part of Israel. The Trump backing in the White House is certainly, with Huckabee also as ambassador, it is certainly going in that direction, that they are open to at least some sovereignty of Israel over areas, at least some areas of Judea and Samaria. I mean, does that mean that, you know, even though the whole world is talking about giving Palestine, a lot of the world, a state right now, that essentially the two-state solution and this concept of the Green Line is actually dead? Ruthie?
The two-state solution has been dead, oh my God, forever. It never existed. Palestinians never wanted a state. They just wanted to destroy the state of Israel. Mahmoud Abbas, the head of the PA, is somebody who's striving for statehood is what kept him relevant and not dead. It kept him in clover, kept him getting applause at the UN, etc. Statehood is not what he seeks. And we've seen that any attempt to make peace with that entity, both Hamas, Islamic Jihad, the Palestinian Authority, has met with more bloodshed. So it's time we changed our hard disk in there and start to think outside the box and change the whole issue. And that isn't because of the far right or in Bibi's government. It's because many Israelis, myself included, believe that it's time.
Dan?
If the two-state solution is dead, then Israel's dead. And that is the unfortunate demographic reality, the reason behind many Israelis and Zionists, like myself, supporting a two-state solution is because without that, there is no Jewish majority country. Now, it's difficult because the West Bank is highly strategic, highland overlooking...
it also includes all of our biblical, landmarks.
No, not all of them,
but
it includes many of them. It's not about rights. It's about what is rational, plausible, reasonable, doable, and desirable. The same Trump administration in 2020 proposed a Palestinian state on about 60 to 65% of the West Bank. I know from conversations with senior people that the various Western parties today who are trying to revive the two-state solution would be delighted if such an idea of a state on part of the territory were to be accepted by Israel. And there probably are ways to get the Palestinians to accept this as not a final but a temporary arrangement. They understand very well that it would need to be demilitarized. And it isn't helpful to look at the West Bank Green Line, the pre-67 boundaries or the 1949 armistice lines as sacrosanct. Because, I don't think Israel can pull out of that entire territory. Therefore, when you speak about annexing Judea and Samaria, that suggests the entire territory. That's madness. That's suicide for Israel.
Area C may be different.
Area C will render the Palestinian areas non-contiguous. The map needs to change. But a Palestinian state in Gaza and in much of the West Bank, demilitarized, is essential for Israel. It's not a favor to anyone. And Mike Johnson, if he wants to fight against that, and if he wants to suggest that this is about biblical rights and that any non-Israeli, non-Jewish claim to the West Bank needs to be resisted, is being very foolish and not strategic. And by the way, it may be red meat for the evangelicals and part of the MAGA base, but it is poison for Zionism.
Well, I disagree. First of all, there is no way in hell that the Palestinians are going to put down their arms, okay? So it'll be demilitarized, it'll be something, and we have to, and etc. We've heard that argument again and again and again, that we cannot rule over this many Palestinians. First of all...
You think we can?
First of all, things change in the Middle East. One thing we discovered is that it doesn't have to... A Palestinian state is not the end-all and be-all of peace agreements with the Arab world. On the contrary, the Abraham Accords showed that you don't have to first have a Palestinian state in order to have peace in the region, peace between Israel and certain Arab neighbors. That's number one. Number two, yes, the Trump plan included a Palestinian state of a kind that is not likely will ever happen, but okay, with a lot of conditions. No. You would have to, you need generations to change their education system, etc. Now, the demography argument, one of the things that was always used was a demography argument, and we see that demography is changing. It isn't, and also, as President Trump said, we need to allow certainly from Gaza, but anywhere in the territories. Any Palestinian who wants to emigrate should be allowed to do so. Interestingly, the world is saying, no, no, no. Other countries, you see immigrants going from country to country in order to have a better life or to save their own lives. Somehow, no, let's keep them in there to suffer and let Hamas make them suffer.
Even
and
though,
we won't.
Ruthie, I will say that I was in
That is
Taipei
such an important point. I really think it needs some contextualizing. For sure, the Palestinians should be allowed to leave, obviously. And clearly, people from Gaza who right now may want to flee a war zone should be allowed to flee, no less than the Ukrainians were allowed to flee to Poland.
Exactly.
Egypt won't let them in, and that's all very, very bad. But that's not a strategic answer. And honestly, this idea of allowing people to voluntarily leave is disingenuous when you have flattened half their territory and rendered the place unlivable. That won't be seen as a voluntary emigration. That will be seen as ethnic cleansing. And by the way, it matters a little bit how something is seen, because Israel, last I checked, is not a completely self-sufficient superpower. Israel is an export-oriented economy, and you have to take world opinion into account if Jewish morality, which generally would oppose expulsion despite some episodes in the Bible suggesting otherwise, is not sufficient.
They attacked us. They always do, and we always try to make peace, and it never works. We only get war, as happened on October 7th. We have to change our whole way of thinking about this. So that's how I see it. I see it that enough with the same old arguments.
Well, but look, if the answer to the demographic problem is the expulsion or compelled exit of the Palestinians, that's one way to go about it. I don't think that will prosper. And by the way, I first spoke to Netanyahu about the demographic problem in 1988. I was a young political reporter. He told me there is no problem. He mentioned, as he does with his incredible eloquence, 8 interlocking factors that will prevent the Palestinians from ever becoming a majority in the Holy Land of Israel, West Bank, plus Gaza. Now, in between now and then, we've had 1.5 million immigrants from the former Soviet Union, and nonetheless, despite his eloquence, he was strategically mistaken and factually wrong, because today, between a river and a sea, in Israel, Gaza, and West Bank, there are 51% Palestinians.
So I want to ask this other question, because, we're talking a lot about world opinion, and when we talk about sovereignty or annexation, and as you mentioned, one of the reasons that Mike Johnson is making the statements he's making is to feed a very specific base, the evangelical Christian base. Is this good for Israel? Because, maybe, just maybe, with the support in the White House and the Christians being a majority right now of Christians in the United States are actually Protestants, evangelical Christians, of which the majority of them, though not all, are pro-Israel. This could be an opportune time to feed that base, to take sovereignty. When we said we're going to have the U.S. move their embassy to Jerusalem, everybody thought that there was going to be World War III, and there wasn't. There are many, many more examples. So why not just try it out when you have the support?
I think Israel should generally try to do what's in its own interest if it can get away with doing that thing. Annexation of the entire West Bank is national suicide, so no. Annexations of little bits of it where there are currently settlements, and that would please many Israelis, perhaps, is a reasonable argument to contemplate. I don't think right now the right thing to do is to create more points of conflict. We have enough complications at this particular moment in history. So no, I would advise against it. But should Israel seize the moment because the White House may agree? Who knows? Maybe. If it were in Israel's interest, sure, why not? Because there is right now an administration in the White House that would probably go along with pretty close to almost anything Israel did. Not everything, because I'm not sure Trump is down with the forever war in Gaza that Netanyahu may be preferring. I just don't think it's in Israel's interest. So what we should do is have a strategic approach to this matter and, exploit, when it is in Israel's interest, the fact that the current administration is in Israel's favor. I would note, however, that not all MAGA is automatically in Israel's favor. There's a split in MAGA that maybe will surprise a lot of people. Certainly, the evangelicals will go with Israeli right wing no matter what. But by the way, that's a little bit of a poison chalice, because that comes from a view that leads to apocalyptic Armageddons in the future where the Jews don't survive as a people. So that's a complex matter. But for the moment, they're on the Jews' side, and that's helpful. But much of MAGA, the isolationist wing of MAGA, Tucker Carlson, for example, wants nothing
Which
to
is
do
a
with
whole
Israel.
other show that I
Or
think
with Ukraine.
Exactly.
that we're
That's a
going to
whole
have to
other
get
show, and
into
you're
at
absolutely
another
right.
time. And unfortunately, we are actually running out of time tonight, so I'm going to have to stop you with the idea that we should be looking for some kind of strategy, as you said, and hope that we do not end up in Armageddon. So that is all for the episode tonight on ILTV Insider. Thanks so much for watching. Stay informed and stay with ILTV. I'm Ayan Hoffman. Thanks for watching.